My name is Amy, and I'm a 37-year-old woman. The past few months have been quite a journey for me, a time of relearning and adapting to new circumstances. This chapter of my life began with a series of challenges brought on by my husband, Daniel. However, I was fortunate to have someone incredibly kind step in to ease my burdens, a true guardian angel in my time of need. But before I dive deeper into these events, let me introduce you to the key people in my story. First up is my sister, Hannah, who is 5 years younger than me. Hannah is undeniably beautiful, and growing up, our relationship was rocky. I was the quintessential nerd, while she was the life of every party, which somehow led to constant friction between us. She seemed to have a knack for getting under my skin, possibly out of jealousy. Our sibling rivalry persisted despite our mom's best efforts to smooth things over. However, once I left for college, and as we both matured, we started to find common ground. Our relationship improved slightly, and while we were never incredibly close, we reached a peaceful coexistence that I was content with. Then there's Daniel, my ex-husband. Our paths crossed at work, and we hit it off almost immediately. After dating for 2 years, we decided to tie the knot together. We worked tirelessly and managed to buy our first home. Although I was the main breadwinner, making the mortgage and bills fall under my name, it felt like a joint victory. A couple of years into our marriage, Daniel broached the topic of starting a family. He painted a picture of a cozy, happy life with children, despite knowing my reservations. His persistence paid off, and eventually I agreed to the idea. We were blessed with a son first, and a daughter followed 2 years later. Initially, Daniel was an active and involved father. But as time went by, his enthusiasm dwindled, and before I knew it, the responsibility of managing our home and caring for our children fell squarely on my shoulders. Daniel's promise of support seemed to fade away, leaving me to juggle our family's needs alone. I chose to leave my job when Daniel got a significant promotion, which meant his salary surpassed mine. It was a tough decision, and though I resisted the idea for quite some time, I eventually accepted it, deciding it wasn't worth fighting over. I discovered a passion for hosting dinner parties to fill the void and keep boredom at bay. My guests often included my mom and sister, who lived nearby, and my mother-in-law, Alexis, whenever she visited. Gradually, I found joy in this new chapter of my life, cherishing the extra time with my family and feeling content with how things were between Daniel and me. However, our relationship had its strains, particularly after a traumatic experience with the birth of our second child, which nearly cost me my life. This ordeal put a strain on us, but I hadn't realized the full extent of our issues until one day while cleaning, I stumbled upon an unfamiliar pair of panties. The discovery left me heartbroken and plagued with doubts about my adequacy as a partner. Despite it being over a year since the birth and the ongoing therapy to overcome its aftermath, finding those panties made it clear that my efforts and struggles were invisible to Daniel. Betrayal and anger quickly replaced my initial shock. I was determined to uncover the truth behind Daniel's infidelity. My first step was to confront him with a picture of the underwear, seeking answers. Then I sifted through his laptop and social media, only to find nothing suspicious at first, which only deepened my confusion. Driven by desperation, I meticulously combed through every message, despite believing it was futile, since I knew all his contacts. The thought that someone close to me could betray me seemed far-fetched, until I noticed my sister's name frequently popping up. Initially, I brushed it off, unable to imagine her involvement in any wrongdoing. However, delving into their conversation shattered my world. The chats were filled with intimate photos, loving exchanges, and plans for Daniel to leave me. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. leaving me reeling from the sheer magnitude of their betrayal. Finding out about my sister's involvement in such a shocking betrayal was a pill too bitter to swallow. Despite our rocky past, I couldn't have imagined her crossing such a line. My initial reaction was visceral. I was so revolted by the revelation that I physically got sick. When attempts to reach Daniel yielded no answer, I turned to my sister Hannah, hoping for some explanation. The conversation with Hannah was surreal. Her nonchalant response and justification for her actions with Daniel were beyond my comprehension. She claimed to be doing me a favor, relieving me of Daniel's attention so I could focus more on our children. The absurdity of her reasoning only added to my disbelief. Hannah's attempt to downplay the situation, suggesting she succumbed to Daniel's advances for what she believed was best for him, left me stunned. Her lack of remorse was the final straw, pushing me to end the call. Enveloped in a mix of disbelief and anger, the aftermath left me in a state of despair. As I tended to my youngest child's needs, the reality of the situation began to weigh heavily on me. The routine tasks of the day felt empty as I grappled with the emotional turmoil of betrayal by 3 people I once trusted. Keeping a brave face for my children was challenging, especially as they inquired about their father's absence, to which I had no truthful answer. As the day turned into night, and Daniel's absence grew more alarming, my worry intensified. My attempts to reach both Dan and Hannah were fruitless, adding to the growing sense of isolation and concern. Exhausted and overwhelmed by the day's events, I hoped sleep would bring some escape from the harsh reality. However, the hope that it was all just a nightmare quickly faded as I awoke to a sense of unease, signaling that the ordeal was far from over. As I surveyed the room that morning, the absence of Daniel's items struck me with a sinking feeling. A frantic search through the house confirmed my fears. All his belongings, except for the most insignificant, were missing. It was as if he had vanished into the night without a word, choosing to escape rather than face our problems. Amidst the shock, my immediate thought was the well-being of our children. They were my priority. After attending to the morning routines and ensuring my children were cared for, I found myself at my mom's doorstep, the weight of my situation heavy on my shoulders. My mother, ever perceptive, sensed my distress immediately. Lost in my thoughts, I grappled with the reality of single parenthood and the daunting future ahead. The time came to break the silence and share the tumultuous events with my mother. I recounted discovering the affair, Daniel's silent departure, and the heart-wrenching realization that my sister Hannah was involved. My mother's shock mirrored my own as I detailed how I uncovered the betrayal, a step I would never normally take but felt compelled to under the circumstances. Revealing Hannah's role in this betrayal was as surreal as it was painful. Her indifferent response when confronted, claiming what she believed was best for Daniel, was a bitter pill to swallow. My mother's reaction, a mix of disbelief and sorrow, offered little solace as we faced the reality of the situation. Confiding in my mother about Daniel and Hannah's affair, I braced myself for the challenges of raising 3 children alone. The support from my family would be crucial, but the path ahead seemed fraught with uncertainty and heartache. Facing the need to secure employment amidst this turmoil, my mom urged me to rest while she digested the bombshell I just dropped. Her support was a lifeline, offering a semblance of peace in the chaos. Numb from the ordeal, I managed to catch some sleep as my mom watched over my youngest. My slumber was cut short by the sound of crying and my mom's raised voice. Rushing to see what was amiss, I found her just ending a heated phone call, likely having given Hannah a piece of her mind for her actions. In the days that followed, my mom moved in to lend a hand, simplifying logistics and providing much-needed emotional support. Hannah's attempts to reach out were met with a firm request from my mom to block her, validating my feelings of betrayal at a time when I felt profoundly alone. The blow of discovering from friends that Daniel and Hannah had hastily married just after he left us added a sharp sting to my already wounded heart. It was a hard pill to swallow, necessitating awkward, painful explanations to concerned friends, who in turn offered their comfort and unanimously chose to cut ties with Daniel and Hannah. My mom's reaction to their marriage revealed a side of her rarely seen. Known for her gentle demeanor, her fury at the news spoke volumes of her love and protective instinct for us. Her willingness to provide financial support and help me find job opportunities was a testament to her unwavering support, helping us navigate this difficult transition. Facing inquiries from the kids about Daniel challenged my composure, yet we persevered, bonded by resilience and love. A week into our new reality, a letter from Daniel arrived. I hesitated, suspecting an apology. I wasn't ready to entertain it. The weight of everything we'd been through lay heavy on my shoulders as I contemplated the next steps for me and my children. Fortified by my mother's unwavering presence, refusing to read Daniel's letter was my stance of closure. A week was far too generous for any attempts at reconciliation, especially after he chose to leave us in silence, a move that screamed cowardice louder than words. So in a moment of defiance, I destroyed the letter. Yet curiosity nagged at me afterward. There were moments I caught myself wondering about its contents, but I quickly reminded myself that no words of his could undo the damage done. The day after, to inject some joy back into our lives, my mom and I took the kids to the fair. It was a much-needed escape from the somberness that had clouded our days. Surrounded by laughter and the bustle of life, I found myself genuinely smiling for the first time in ages. That night, as my mom and I unwound with a bottle of wine, I brought up the letter. I received something in the mail last night. I began hesitantly. Oh, what was it? My mom inquired, curiosity piqued. A letter from Daniel, I admitted. And what did it say? She asked, leaning in. I have no idea, I confessed. You didn't open it. She was surprised. No, I couldn't bear any of his excuses, so I burned it instead. I explained, feeling a mix of defiance and slight regret. My mom paused. Amy, what if it was something important, like official divorce papers? I shrugged off the concern. The envelope didn't look official at all. I'm sure it wasn't anything like that. All right, if you're sure, she said, but then probed gently. But what do you think he might have said in it? I don't know, perhaps a half-hearted apology, or maybe he wanted his stuff back. I speculated, trying to dismiss the lingering what-ifs. The conversation drifted away from the letter as we focused on the brighter aspects of our night. Yet the what could have been hovered silently in our midst, an uninvited guest among the remnants of our past. Dealing with everything has been a roller coaster, but having a moment of joy at the fair gave me a glimpse of hope. The toughest part is when the kids question me about their dad's whereabouts. Finding the right words is always a challenge. Though things are improving bit by bit, it's a slow process. My mom's unwavering support has been my rock. During our conversation, she revealed her intentions to disown Hannah, ensuring that her support and inheritance would solely benefit me and my children. Her decision, born from Hannah's indefensible actions, highlighted the depth of her disappointment. Despite my initial shock, understanding her perspective wasn't hard. The thought of severing ties with one's child was unimaginable to me, emphasizing my gratitude for my mom's support even more. Just as we were adjusting to our new normal, an unexpected visit caught me off guard. With my mom at work and no visitors anticipated, the sight of two men in black suits at my door was startling. Their introduction as lawyers piqued my curiosity and anxiety alike. wondering what they were here to deliver. Receiving a check for a staggering $520,000 left me speechless, convinced there had been a significant error. However, the lawyers were adamant there was no mistake and encouraged me to read the accompanying note. The message began with a heartfelt thank you for saving me, piquing my curiosity and confusion. It became clear as I read on that this unexpected fortune came from Alexis, my mother-in-law. Alexis's letter unveiled a tale of unexpected visitation and thwarted entry due to changed locks and subsequent revelations. She had sensed something amiss in Daniel's behavior, which led to a confession of his actions. Her letter conveyed disappointment in her son and compassion towards me and her grandchildren. She disclosed her decision to redirect her entire inheritance to us as a token of her gratitude and to rectify the wrongs inflicted by her son. The lawyers then shared the heart-wrenching news of Alexis's terminal illness and her passing just a day before. Her last wishes were clear. She wanted me and her grandchildren to be well cared for with the inheritance. Learning of her death and her final act of kindness brought tears to my eyes. Alexis had always been a beacon of integrity and support. Despite Daniel's fear of her, I always found solace in her presence. Her final gesture underscored her commitment to doing what was right, ensuring her support lived on even after her passing. Alexis's legacy was not just in her assets, but in the love and protection she extended to us, marking the end of a profound chapter in our lives. When Daniel called, I anticipated the direction of our conversation, yet chose to entertain it out of a morbid curiosity. "What did you do?" he demanded, his vagueness prompting me to press for clarity, leading to his frustrated inquiry about my absence on a specific day. A day he claimed he had written about in a letter, instructing me to maintain a facade of normalcy for his mother's visit. Oh, was that what the letter was about? I replied, revealing I had burned it unread. Daniel's outrage was palpable. He accused me of sabotaging his potential inheritance, branding me selfish. His accusation, given his actions abandoning his family for personal gain, was ironic. I retorted, highlighting his abandonment and pointing out that his mother's decision was a testament to her understanding of what was truly right for her grandchildren and me. I ended the call with a firm directive for him to never contact us again. Progressing swiftly from there, I initiated divorce proceedings and secured full custody of our children. Daniel's attempts to challenge Alexis's inheritance decision were futile. Her will explicitly favored me, despite Daniel and Hannah's efforts to manipulate me into relinquishing the inheritance. I remained resolute in my refusal. The financial security provided by Alexis's generosity transformed our lives. I allocated a significant portion for my children's future education and made prudent investments. This windfall allowed my mom to retire comfortably, and I embarked on a new career path. My children have gradually come to terms with their father's absence, and I'm prepared to share the full story with them when they're mature enough. Though the ordeal left scars, the support from my loved ones and the newfound financial ability have been crucial in navigating the aftermath. As we rebuild, I'm convinced that the only direction we can move is forward, with hope and resilience guiding us.
"Sarah, we need to talk," my husband, Michael, said. His voice sounded sad, but I knew he was pretending. I looked up from my laptop where I was planning our home renovation. His mother, Linda, stood beside him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. My stomach tightened. I knew this act. Linda was very good at fake crying. "The doctor says I have 6 months to live," Linda said, her voice shaking. "I don't want to be alone at the end." She fell into our armchair, the same one I had seen her measuring last week, complaining it didn't match her decor. "My name is Sarah Parker, and at 34, I had finally bought my dream home. After my parents died in a car accident 2 years ago, I used my inheritance to buy a beautiful Victorian house. It needed work, but it was mine. Linda never liked that. Mom needs to move in with us, Michael said firmly. We can turn your art studio into her bedroom. My chest tightened. The art studio was special to me. It was my dream to paint there. The sunlight coming through the windows was perfect. I know this is unexpected, Linda sniffled, but family sticks together in hard times. She had never treated me as family in the 8 years I had been married to Michael. She always saw me as the woman who had trapped her son. Which doctor told you this? I asked carefully. Maybe we should get a second opinion. Linda hesitated, then said, Dr. Thompson. But I trust him. I nodded. Dr. Thompson, the same doctor who supposedly diagnosed her with a rare disease last year, just before Michael and I were supposed to go to Italy. We canceled our trip to take care of her, but 2 weeks later she was fine. I need to think about this, I said. Think about it, Michael shouted. My mother is dying. Where is your compassion? I looked at my husband. He had always chosen his mother over me. Something inside me changed. Yes, I need to think about it, I said firmly. This is my house too. Actually, Linda said sweetly, since Michael is your husband, it's his house too, and a son's duty to his mother. The house is in my name only, I cut in. I bought it with my inheritance. Linda's smile faded. But that's not the point. This is a big decision, and I won't rush into it. I walked outside to the garden, my favorite place. Sitting on a bench, I pulled out my phone and called Dr. Thompson's office. I'm sorry, the receptionist said. We have no patient records for a Linda Morrison. I thanked her and hung up. My suspicions were right. I called my sister, Emma, a nurse. Can you check something for me? I asked. 2 days later, I had my answer. Linda had not been to any oncologist. She had no cancer, no diagnosis. She was lying. For a week, I watched as Linda and Michael planned her move. She brought boxes over, talked about painting the walls. Michael barely spoke to me, acting as if I was cruel for hesitating. Then came the family dinner. Linda invited everyone. Michael's sisters, their husbands, aunts, uncles, cousins. She wanted them to pressure me. She stood up, pretending to be emotional. She announced her diagnosis and said how I had graciously agreed to let her move in. Everyone praised Michael for being such a good son. Then I stood up. My hands were steady as I lifted my glass. I have something to say. Linda smiled, expecting me to agree. Instead, I pulled out a folder and met her eyes. I spoke to Dr. Thompson's office, I said, and every other oncologist in the state. Linda's face turned pale. The dining room went silent. Linda's fork dropped onto her plate, the clatter echoing in the tense air. Her face, already pale, turned almost white. I don't understand, she stammered, reaching for her water with shaking hands. Dr. Thompson doesn't share patient details. That's interesting, I said calmly, because Dr. Thompson retired 3 years ago. His clinic doesn't even exist anymore. Michael stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Sarah, what are you doing? I opened my folder and pulled out the papers. I checked with every cancer hospital within 100 miles. No Linda Morrison has been diagnosed with cancer. No Linda Morrison has even been tested for it. The room filled with whispers. Linda's sister, Patricia, leaned forward, frowning. Linda, is this true? She's lying, Linda shouted, standing up. She's trying to turn you all against me because she doesn't want me in her fancy house. Actually, I said, sliding the papers across the table, I'm telling the truth. These are the hospital records. You can call and check for yourselves. Michael grabbed the documents, his hands shaking. This has to be wrong. Mom wouldn't. But she would, his sister Jessica said quietly. Remember when she faked pneumonia before your wedding? Or the heart problem when you got that job in Seattle? Linda's face twisted with anger. Jessica, how dare you? I'm your mother. Yes, you are, Jessica said. And I love you. But this has to stop. The lies, the tricks, the drama, it's not okay. Michael sat down, staring at the papers in his hands. Slowly, the truth sank in. The house, he whispered. You wanted the house. Linda lost control. Of course I wanted the house. She doesn't deserve it. She used her inheritance to buy that beautiful home while I'm stuck in my tiny ranch house. It's not fair. Not fair? I repeated, keeping my voice level. Like it wasn't fair when you tried to convince Michael to challenge my inheritance. Or when you told everyone at church I was flaunting my parents' death by buying the house. The shocked gasps around the table told me that Linda hadn't shared those particular details with the family. Michael's head snapped up, his eyes wide. You did what? She needed to be put in her place, Linda hissed. Always acting so perfect, so independent. A real wife would have given that money to her husband. Like you gave your inheritance to Dad? Patricia asked, her voice sharp. Oh wait, you didn't get one. Is that what this is really about, Linda? The truth hung heavy in the air. Linda's face crumpled, not in fake tears this time, but in genuine defeat. The careful manipulation she orchestrated was falling apart, exposing years of jealousy and resentment. I just wanted, she started, then stopped, looking lost. You wanted to control everything, like always, Jessica finished. But this time you went too far. Faking cancer? That's cruel, Mom, not just to Sarah, but to everyone who's actually fighting that battle. Michael stood up again, but this time his posture was different, defeated, tired. I think everyone should go home, he said quietly. Mom, I'll drive you. But Michael, Linda protested. No, Mom, not this time. As the family filed out, each person avoiding Linda's desperate gaze, I stayed at the table, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Patricia stopped beside me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, she said softly. We should have seen it sooner. After everyone left, I began clearing the barely touched dinner plates, the sound of Michael's car starting and pulling away echoing in the quiet house. I wasn't sure if he'd come back tonight. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. But as I stood in my kitchen in my house, I felt something unexpected, relief. The truth was finally out, and with it, the weight of years of subtle manipulation and forced smiles lifted from my shoulders. I walked to the window that overlooked my garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Whatever happened next, I knew I'd done the right thing. My parents had taught me to stand up for myself, and tonight, I finally had. The sound of the front door opening made me turn. Michael stood in the doorway, his face etched with exhaustion and something else. Shame. I dropped her off at home, Michael said, his voice rough. She cried the whole way there, said I was choosing you over her. I stayed silent, watching as he moved into the kitchen, looking lost in the space that had always been our home. He ran his hand over the counter, the one we picked up together during our renovation. But that's not what this is about, is it? He continued. This is about choosing truth over lies. I've been blind, Sarah, so blind. I leaned against the sink, crossing my arms. Yes, you have. All those times she had emergencies, conveniently when we were about to do something important. He shook his head. The tropical disease before our Italy trip, the heart palpitations when I got the Seattle job offer, and now this. She knew what she was doing, I said softly. She always has. Michael looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. How did you stay? Knowing she was manipulating everything, watching me believe her every time. Because I loved you, I replied simply. But Michael, I won't do it anymore. I can't. He nodded, sinking into one of our kitchen chairs. I don't expect you to. What she did, faking cancer, his voice broke. My aunt died of cancer last year. How could she use that? I moved to sit across from him, feeling the weight of this moment. Your mother needs help, Michael. Professional help. This isn't normal behavior. Jessica's already looking into family therapists, he said. She thinks Mom's behavior has gotten worse since Dad died. The need to control everything, to be the center of attention. We sat in silence for a while, the ticking of the kitchen clock marking time as we both processed the evening's events. Finally, Michael reached across the table, his hand open, palm up. I know I don't deserve it, he said quietly, but I'd like a chance to make this right. To be the husband you deserve, not just the son my mother wanted me to be. I looked at his outstretched hand, thinking of all we'd been through. It won't be easy, I warned. There needs to be boundaries. Real ones. I know he agreed. No more emergency visits, no more guilt trips, no more letting her make decisions about our life. And he hesitated, then continued firmly. I think we should go to counseling too. Together. I need to understand how I let this happen, how I hurt you by always putting her first. I felt tears prick at my eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. This was the man I'd married, the one who'd been buried under years of his mother's manipulation. Okay, I said, placing my hand in his. We can try. The next few months weren't easy. Linda alternated between tearful apologies and bitter accusations, but we held firm to our boundaries. Michael started therapy, both with me and on his own, working through years of ingrained patterns. I finished my art studio, filling it with canvases and light. Sometimes, when I'm painting there, I think about that family dinner and how close I came to losing my dream home to Linda's schemes. But then I look at the changes in our lives, the peace, the honesty, the renewed connection between Michael and me, and I know it was worth it. Linda eventually agreed to counseling, though it took Jessica and Patricia's ultimatum to get her there. She's learning slowly to build relationships based on truth rather than manipulation. Last week, she even sent me a card, a real one, apologizing for everything. It's a small step, but it's something. Michael and I finally took that trip to Italy, sending postcards to his mother from every city we visited. When we returned, our house was exactly as we'd left it. No emergencies, no drama, just home. Yesterday, as I worked in my garden, I found the first rosebud of spring pushing through the soil. Like that tiny flower, our family is growing in new ways, healthier ways. It's not perfect, but it's real, and that's all I ever wanted. The house stands as it always has, but now it feels different. It's not just my sanctuary anymore. It's our home, mine and Michael's, built on a foundation of truth and trust. And that's something no manipulation could ever provide. The text message arrived at 2:37 a.m., jolting me awake with its harsh blue light cutting through the darkness of our bedroom. My first thought was something must be wrong. No one sends messages at this hour unless it's an emergency. My name is Elena Martinez, 35 years old, and little did I know that this single message would be the first thread in a complex tapestry of betrayal that would change everything. We need to talk, the message read. It was from Sophia, my husband Michael's sister. I'd always known Sophia didn't like me. From the moment Michael and I got married 5 years ago, there was something beneath her polite smile. A tension, a barely concealed disdain that made family gatherings feel like walking through a minefield. Michael stirred beside me, his breathing deep and steady. He'd been working late at the law firm, something that had become increasingly common over the past few months. I carefully slipped out of bed, not wanting to wake him, and walked to the kitchen. The message continued. Meet me at the cafe on Oak Street, 7 a.m. Don't tell Michael. My hand trembled slightly as I read the words. There was an urgency, almost a threat in her tone that sent a chill down my spine. I'd met Michael in graduate school. He was studying law. I was pursuing my doctorate in environmental science. We were the perfect power couple, or so everyone thought. Michael from a wealthy family, me with my academic ambitions, both driven and passionate about our respective fields. Sophia had always been different. While Michael was the responsible, ambitious sibling, she bounced between jobs, always expecting her family to bail her out. Their parents, especially their mother, had always been overly protective of Sophia, making excuses for her constant financial troubles and failed relationships. I checked the time. 4:15 a.m. Sleep was impossible now. Something in Sophia's message felt different. Not just another family drama, but something more calculated. The don't tell Michael part echoed with a sense of impending revelation that made my stomach twist. When morning came, I prepared carefully. I dressed in the blue blazer Michael loved, the one that made me feel strongest. My doctoral research on urban environmental sustainability was gaining recognition, and I'd worked hard to build my reputation. The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Sophia was already there, her perfectly manicured nails wrapped around a coffee cup. She looked different, more serious than I'd ever seen her. You took everything from me, she said without preamble. I blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Her laugh was brittle, sharp-edged. Michael. My brother. My family's attention. Everything. I realized then that this was more than a simple confrontation. This was a declaration of war. Michael and I built our life together. I said carefully, I don't understand what you mean. Sophia leaned forward, her eyes glinting with a mix of desperation and something darker. You have no idea what's coming to you. The way she said it, like a promise, like a threat, made my blood run cold. What Sophia didn't know was that I wasn't the naive woman she believed me to be. Years of academic research had taught me to look beneath surfaces, to understand complex systems and hidden motivations. And something told me that this conversation was about to change everything. "Tell me," I said, my voice steady. "What exactly are you planning?" Little did Sophia know, I was already 3 steps ahead, and the game was just beginning. The courtroom was silent, full of tension. I sat calmly, hands in my lap, watching as the truth finally came out. Sophia had made a mistake. She thought I was weak, just a quiet observer in my own life. For weeks, I had gathered proof. Bank records, secret messages, recorded talks. What I found was worse than I had imagined. Michael's mother, Eleanor, sat behind me. Her perfect suit and makeup couldn't hide her fear. She knew what was coming. "Mrs. Martinez," the judge said, "please summarize your claims." I stood up. "Your Honor, this was a planned effort to ruin my marriage and my life." I explained how Sophia and Eleanor had worked together to frame me. They faked messages and photos, hired private detectives, and built a false story of me cheating. Their goal was to make Michael divorce me and leave me with nothing. They believed that once I was gone, Michael would be easy to control. But they had underestimated me. I had been watching them, gathering proof for months. "The most important evidence," I said, "is this." I handed the court clerk a USB drive. It contained proof, bank transfers, conversations, and records of payments to lawyers and investigators. Thousands of dollars spent on lies. Michael sat in shock. His lawyer whispered urgently, but he had no defense. "This isn't just about a divorce," I said. "This was a full plan to destroy my reputation, my career, and my future." The court reviewed the evidence, bank records, text messages, and recorded conversations. The truth was undeniable. The judge looked serious. What started as a divorce case had now become a bigger legal issue: fraud and harassment. Sophia turned pale. Eleanor looked shaken. Michael looked sick. My lawyer spoke next. "The damage to my client is not just financial. Her career and emotional well-being were attacked. Their family's perfect image was falling apart. Years of manipulation were now exposed." The final decision was clear. Michael would lose the divorce case, and his family faced possible legal charges. As I left the courtroom, I felt peaceful. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. Outside, the sun was shining. My phone buzzed, messages of support from friends and colleagues. Eleanor walked up to me. "You've destroyed this family," she said. I looked at her calmly. "No, your own actions did that." As I walked away, I realized something important. The best way to fight lies isn't anger. It's patience. It's proof. It's knowing your own worth. Sophia and her family had made one big mistake. They had underestimated me. Just then, my phone rang. It was the dean of my department. A new research grant, an exciting project. My career was moving forward. Life, I thought, has its own way of bringing justice. The courtroom hummed with tension, a quiet electricity that speaks of impending revelation. I sat composed, my blue blazer pressed, my evidence meticulously organized. "My name is Elena Martinez, and today everything would change." Sophia and Michael's mother, Eleanor, sat 2 rows behind me. Their perfectly coordinated outfits couldn't mask the fear brewing in their eyes. "Mrs. Martinez," the judge addressed me, "please summarize your claims." I stood, my movements deliberate and controlled. "Your Honor, this is about a calculated attempt to destroy my life, my marriage, and my professional reputation." The evidence unfolded like a carefully constructed narrative. Bank statements, recorded conversations, text messages, a comprehensive trail of manipulation that stretched back months. Their plan had been intricate: fabricate evidence of my infidelity, create grounds for a divorce that would leave me with nothing. Michael would be easily manipulated once I was out of the picture. What they didn't understand was that I was never just a passive target. "Exhibit A," I said, sliding a USB drive to the court clerk. It contained a network of financial transactions, payments between Eleanor, Sophia, and a web of lawyers and private investigators. Michael looked shell-shocked, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. The confident attorney I'd married had been reduced to a cornered man. My lawyer began detailing the financial damages, not just monetary, but the emotional trauma, the professional reputation they'd attempted to destroy. The most damning evidence was a series of recordings. Sophia and Eleanor discussing how they would eliminate me, how I was an obstacle to their family's perfect image. They believed I was just a simple academic, I explained. Someone they could easily manipulate and discard. The judge's expression grew increasingly serious. What had begun as a divorce hearing was transforming into an investigation of systematic fraud and harassment. Sophia's face drained of color. Eleanor's perfectly maintained composure cracked. Michael looked like he might be sick. When the hearing concluded, the results were definitive. A complete dismantling of their elaborate scheme. Michael would not only lose the divorce proceedings but potentially face legal consequences. As we left the courtroom, a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. About protecting myself when no one else would. Outside, the summer sun blazed. My phone buzzed with messages of support from colleagues, my research team. People who understood my true value. Eleanor approached, her usual confidence gone. "You've destroyed this family," she whispered. I met her gaze, calm and direct. "No," I replied. "Your own actions did that long before I spoke a word." Walking away, I realized something profound. The most powerful weapon against manipulation isn't anger. It's documentation. It's patience. It's knowing your own worth. My academic training had prepared me for this moment. The ability to observe, to collect evidence, to build a comprehensive case. These were skills I'd honed for years. Sophia and her family had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated me. As I stepped into the sunlight, my phone rang. The dean of my department, a new international research grant, a collaboration that would take my work to unprecedented levels. Life, I realized, has its own way of delivering justice. Later that evening, sitting in my apartment, I reflected on the day's events. The carefully constructed plan that had taken months to unravel. The family dynamics that had been toxic long before I entered the picture. My research on urban environmental sustainability had taught me something crucial. Systems are complex. Family systems, legal systems, personal relationships, they all have hidden currents, unspoken rules. I had navigated those currents. I had survived. A message from a colleague caught my eye. "Impressive work today," it read. Not many would have the patience, the strategic thinking to pull this off. I smiled. This wasn't just a victory. This was a statement.